Once a woman marries, she's no longer part of the family. Family celebrations are only for family, so just leave already. That's what my sister Amy said to me, with a smirk on her face, while my mother stood beside her, not saying anything kind. Instead, she just urged me to hurry up and go. I had come back home hoping for something warm, for a small sign that maybe things had changed. It was Amy's coming-of-age ceremony, a big deal in our culture. I thought maybe this time they would include me. I had even bought a gift, but instead, I was treated like a stranger, not just an outsider, but like I didn't belong at all. At that moment, everything hit me hard. The hope I had carried crumbled. I wasn't part of this family anymore. Maybe I never really was. My chest felt tight, but I stood still, refusing to cry in front of them. If that's how they wanted it, fine, I'd walk away. But I made myself a quiet promise. One day, they'll regret treating me this way. My name is Sherry. I'm 22 now. I've been living on my own since I was 18, and I left home prepared after graduating from vocational high school. Life since then has been hard, full of long hours, cheap meals, and quiet nights, but it's been mine. Every bill I paid, every meal I cooked, every small dinner, first birthday, my father walked out on us. He left for another woman and never looked back. My mother never forgave him. Sadly, I looked like him, same eyes, same smile, and because of that, she resented me. You're just like him. I hate looking at your face, she would say. I didn't fully understand those words when I was a little girl, but I understood the feeling behind them, the coldness, the silence, the rejection. At first, my grandparents gave me some love. But as my mother leaned on them more and more for help, especially with money, they started distancing themselves too. I became a burden to everyone. By the time I was 2, my mother had remarried. Soon, Amy was born, and just like that, my mother had the family she really wanted, a husband, a daughter, a new life. I wasn't included in it. I was the leftover child. One time, I saw them packing for a family trip. "Where are you going?" I asked. "On vacation," my mother said, barely glancing at me. "Can I come too?" I asked, hopefully. She looked at me and said flatly, "Of course not, we'll drop you off at daycare." I remember watching them leave, laughing, smiling, holding hands. I stood there, suitcase in hand, heading for a 24-hour daycare, all alone. That became the norm. They went on trips, had fun, made memories. I was left behind, every single time. Even at home, I felt like a ghost. I remember Amy once asked our mom, "Why doesn't Cher get a birthday party?" I thought, for just a moment, that someone might care. But my mother laughed. "Celebrate her birthday? What's there to celebrate?" Her words cut deep, and from that moment on, Amy started treating me the same way, like I didn't matter. Amy had birthday parties, cakes, gifts. I had nothing, not even a slice of cake, not even a candle. When I entered high school, things got worse. They refused to pay for my education. I had no choice but to attend a vocational school and start working right away. Oddly enough, working and studying gave me a taste of freedom. It was exhausting, but it was better than being in that house where I was constantly unwanted. At 18, I made the hardest decision of my life. I left. I packed my bags quietly. No one stopped me. No one even looked up. "Do whatever you want. You're not our problem anymore," my mother said as I walked out the door. That was the last thing she ever said to me before I left home. Living alone was tough. Rent, food, bills. It was overwhelming at first, but for the first time, I could breathe. I could come home without feeling tense. I could eat dinner without being insulted. It was lonely, sure, but it was peaceful. Even now, at 22, I still remember everything clearly, especially around Amy's 21st birthday. I didn't have a coming-of-age celebration. They didn't even mention it, but I knew Amy would have a big party, maybe a banquet, maybe a designer dress, maybe even a fancy cake, everything I never got. Then, out of the blue, my mother called me. Her voice was sharp, like always. "Amy's birthday is next week. You're not coming, right?" she said. I was stunned. I hadn't heard her voice in years. "I wasn't invited," I replied softly. "Good, it'd be awkward if you showed up." And then she hung up. Her words haunted me. Why did she even bother calling if only to hurt me? But somewhere deep down, I felt something stirring. Even after everything, I still wanted to try. I didn't know why. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I was still clinging to some sliver of hope. So I bought a cake, I wrapped a gift, and I went back home for the first time in years. When I rang the bell, Amy opened the door. Her eyes widened with annoyance. "Who's there?" "It's me. Sherry." She rolled her eyes. "Stop joking." "I brought a cake," I said, holding it out. "Can I come in?" She yanked the box from my hands, and before I could react, threw it to the ground. The cake splattered on the porch. "What are you doing?" I gasped. "I'm not eating food from a stranger," she sneered. That word hit hard, stranger. Before I could speak, my mother appeared. She looked at me with disgust, then laughed with Amy. "Why are you here, trying to ruin her birthday?" she said. "Am I not family?" I asked, tears welling up in my eyes. "We're not even related," she said with a cruel smile. Amy joined in. "Did you actually think you were one of us?" My legs felt weak, I could barely stand. "Clean up that mess before you leave," my mother snapped, pointing at the smashed cake. Shaking, I bent down and picked it up piece by piece, their laughter echoing behind me. When I finished, I stood up silently. "Leaving already?" Amy mocked. "You should have never come." As I walked away, she called out again, "Don't come back, stranger." The door slammed behind me. And that was it. That moment became the final ending to a story that had dragged on too long. I had always hoped that one day, maybe things would change, that maybe they'd see me, really see me, as someone worth loving. But I finally accepted the truth. I had never been their family. And I didn't need to keep trying. Because I already had a real family, Don, my husband, the man who saw me, loved me, and stood by me with kindness and warmth. That was where I truly belonged. A new beginning. My whole life changed when I met Don. For the longest time, I never thought I would get married. I didn't think I was good enough to have a real family of my own. After everything I had been through with my mother and Amy, love felt like something made for other people, people who belonged, people who were wanted. But then Don came into my life. He didn't judge me. He didn't ask for explanations. He just listened, really listened. When I finally opened up to him about my childhood, the pain, the rejection, the way my family treated me, he didn't try to fix it or tell me to move on. Instead, he said something I'll never forget. "You didn't get to choose your family, Sherry, but that doesn't mean you don't deserve love. The family we build together, that will be your real home." Those words wrapped around my heart like a warm blanket. For the first time, I felt like I belonged, like someone truly saw me, not as a burden or an outsider, but as someone worth loving. Our life together slowly became my safe space, full of laughter, warmth, and support. Don helped me believe in myself again. He didn't just love me, he made me feel like I was enough. But even in that happiness, there was a part of my life I had kept hidden. I never told my family about Don. I didn't want their coldness and cruelty to poison what we had. It was better to keep that door closed. But somehow, they found out. Just 3 days after Amy threw the cake back at me, my mother called. I hadn't heard her voice in years, and hearing it now filled me with tension. "So, you got married?" she said sharply. "Why didn't you tell us something so important?" I stayed calm. I didn't think it mattered. There was a pause, then her voice turned bitter. "Fine, do whatever you want, you'll just end up alone anyway." This time, her words didn't sting. Because I wasn't alone. I had Don, and for the first time in my life, I was surrounded by real love, honest, kind, and unconditional. I thought that call was the end of it. But 3 days later, there was a knock at our door. When I opened it, I froze. Amy stood there. How did she even find my address? Still, I let her in. Maybe I was still hoping for some sort of peace. "What are you doing here?" I asked, carefully. "I just wanted to see what kind of guy would marry someone like you," she said with a smirk. Then she saw Don. Her eyes narrowed. "This is your husband." Not Don. How'd you manage that?" Don stepped forward without missing a beat. "I'm Sher's husband. Please don't talk to me like that." Amy blinked, surprised. She tried to laugh it off and made it perfect. "But come, Freddie. Don't be so serious. Let's have some fun." Amy's fake smile dropped. She shrugged like she didn't care and turned to leave. After she was gone, Don looked at me and said, "People like that don't belong in your life." He was right. That visit was a turning point. For years, I had sent money to my mother and Amy. I paid for Amy's school, helped with their house payments. I thought maybe, just maybe, they would accept me if I did enough. But after that visit, I realized something important. I didn't owe them anything. I told Don I was done. No more money, no more helping people who never helped me. He smiled and said, "That's the right choice. You've already done more than enough. Now it's time to take care of you." It was like a heavy chain had been taken off my chest. I stopped all payments. I even sold the house I had helped them buy to recover my losses. And for the first time, I felt free. But peace didn't last. About a month later, my door shook with loud banging. My mother and Amy stood there, furious. "Why didn't the payment go through? The landlord is threatening to evict us," my mother shouted. I didn't flinch. "Because I'm not responsible for you anymore." They stared at me like I'd slapped them. "What do you mean, you owe us?" Amy cried. "No, I don't. You made it clear I'm not part of your family, so I have no duty to help you anymore." Amy looked panicked. "What about my tuition?" "That's your problem now," I said. My mother started yelling again. "After all we did for you." "You mean years of neglect, cruelty, making me feel worthless?" I interrupted. "No, I don't owe you anything. I'm done." They left, shouting threats behind them. But their words meant nothing to me anymore. Then came the harassment. They came to my house every day, yelling and making scenes. They even contacted Don's parents, trying to embarrass me. Thankfully, my in-laws stood by me. Don's father told them clearly, "Sherry is our family now. Your problems are yours alone." After one too many incidents, I had to involve the police. At first, they didn't take it seriously, just a family dispute, they said. But I kept pushing, showing them security footage and saving voicemails. Eventually, the police issued restraining orders. My neighbors supported me too, they had seen the chaos. Don and I decided it was time for a fresh start. We moved to a quiet new town, peaceful, calm, ours. Even after the move, my mother and Amy tried to follow us, but Don's parents shut them down. "You made your bed, now lie in it," my mother-in-law told them firmly. Soon, they gave up. Finally, I was free. My in-laws welcomed me with open arms. They told me over dinner one night, "Sherry, you're our daughter now, we'll always be here for you." That night, I cried for a long time, but this time, the tears were from relief. Meanwhile, my old family fell apart. Without my support, my mother and stepfather split. Amy's future crumbled too. Her engagement was broken off when her fiancé learned about her past behavior. I didn't feel sorry for them. They had made their choices. But I had made mine too, and it led to joy. Don and I grew stronger as a couple. We supported each other, built a life full of warmth and understanding. One night, as we sat together on the couch, Don held my hand and said, "We've come a long way. I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy." Tears welled up in my eyes. For the first time, I knew I had a real family. Not one I was born into, but one I chose. One built on love, not blood. And that made all the difference.